This is Music Off the Record. I'm Dr. Ken Owen from Pierce College. We're going to be talking about music at the upcoming Northwest Sinfonietta concert called Double Bach Concerto. The last piece of the concert will be music by Robert Schumann. So let's talk about this composer a little bit. As you can see on my map here, it shows you where he's born in Zwickau, Germany. His father is a bookseller, which leads to young Robert having a great passion for literature. But his career dream is always to be a concert pianist. So you see the picture, the little painting of young Schumann here dreaming to be a pianist. So as a young man, he seeks out the best piano teacher he can find, one of the great piano teachers of Europe named Friedrich, a little portrait of him here, and he begins his studies. During this time, as he's studying for years with Friedrich, he enters into a secret engagement with Ernestine von Fricken. So yes, she's his frickin' fiancée. Can't resist that one. So they're engaged for a while, secret for whatever reasons, but it ends up not working out. So the frickin' fiancée is gone. Well, in the meantime, he's begun to notice the young daughter of his piano teacher, Clara. Now, she's 9 years younger than him, which seems a bit extreme maybe for some today, but in those days maybe not so unusual. But still, for reasons that we'll talk about in a moment, Friedrich was not thrilled about this pairing, and they knew that would be the case. And so once again, it's a secret engagement, waiting for the right moment to tell Dad. In the meantime, Schumann begins to have some problems with his hands that really kind of kills his dream of becoming a concert pianist. The image you see here is of a finger strengthening device that's something like what it sounds like Schumann was using. He blames his hand problems on this finger strengthening device, although scholars today suspect it was more likely a symptom of the syphilis that he had, as well as the attempts to treat that syphilis, which in that time they gave you mercury to try to treat your syphilis. So between the syphilis and the mercury poisoning, we think that was probably the cause for the hand problems, as well as the many other health struggles that Schumann had throughout his life. This is one of the big reasons, of course, that Wieck is not thrilled with this engagement, because here's a young man who's been spending all his time in education training to be a concert pianist who now has a crippled hand. So how is he going to provide for a family? So Clara's father, therefore, would not give permission for them to marry, and in those days you couldn't do it if Dad didn't say okay. They end up having to go to court, but they do manage to win the battle and get married. So now back to that question, how is a pianist with a crippled hand going to provide for a family? And this is where he begins to turn more and more to composition. He actually ends up doing a lot of music criticism, writing about music as well. So before he marries Clara, most of what he had written was piano music or songs, music for voice and piano, maybe some small ensembles. So once they're married, Clara really encourages him to write a symphony and to write things for larger orchestras and such. And so right away he writes his first and second symphonies, very prolific time right after the wedding. Now this is the Romantic period that Schumann's living, so we have had the symphony for a long time, but Schumann, like most composers of the day, don't want to just take it as is. They really kind of explore and push the envelope and see if they can change a little bit, make it a little less structured. And he does that, and we'll talk about how he does that a little bit with the specific symphony that we're going to be listening to on this concert. So anyway, 10 years later, after they marry and after those first couple of symphonies, they move to Dusseldorf, where he is the new music director there, and the people there are very excited to have the Schumanns come. They're excited to have the famous Robert Schumann come and be their music director. He's very warmly welcomed. And they're there for a little while. Unfortunately, Schumann comes to a tragic end. He suffered from mental illness. Now, of course, little was known of mental illness at the time. I've seen scholars speculate that it was perhaps he was manic depressive or had schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Whatever it was, there was definitely some struggles there, and he recognized that. In fact, he even attempted suicide at one point, throwing himself off of a bridge into the River Rhine. And he kind of checked himself into the asylum. He recognized that he was having mental problems and said, I need to go to the asylum. Of course, that's about the extent of treatment they had for mental illness back then, was to send you to an insane asylum to live until you died. And he died a year and a half later, leaving behind Clara and 8 young children. Quite a task for her. but she's another composer and another story. So we'll talk in another video about the Third Symphony for this concert.